Celine Perkins with Perkins Dry Goods. Welcome to part 2 of the Frosty Friends Sew Along. Today we're going to look at the blocks that are in the second part, and the main block is an Ohio star, and we're going to be making quarter square triangles to serve as the star points. So what you want to do is take your background fabric and draw a line from corner to corner on each one of the large squares, and there should be 2 of them. Then you layer right sides together with the fabric you've chosen for your star points, and you sew a 1/4 inch along each side of this line. I've done that on this one. But if you don't have a 1/4 inch foot and you can't move your needle, you can use a tool like this Quilter's Magic Wand to draw your sewing line. So what you would do with that, and you can do it with a ruler too, just line up the center of this ruler or your 1/4 inch line. Like if you were using a ruler like this, line up your 1/4 inch line on the center, and then draw your stitching line on either side of that center. And you don't, if you're going to do it this way, you don't have to draw the center line. You can just draw these stitching lines, because you can line up your 1/4 inch mark at the opposite corners. So stitch on either side of the line. When you finish excuse me, doing that, then you see these are stitched. Cut apart in the center, and then you will be pressing to the darker fabric. And I'll be right back. So we've pressed towards the dark fabric. Now if you're using a dark background, you can it really doesn't matter which way you press, as long as you press to the same fabric on all of them. So in the pattern it shows dark blue as the background, so that's the fabric I pressed to in that version. But in this version I'm making it with a light background, so I'm pressing to the darker fabric, which is going to be the stars. Then the next thing you do is you place your half square triangles right sides together with the fabrics opposite one another. And because of the way you've pressed, you should be able to feel that they're nested right up. Now you have to draw another line, and you can do this before or after you layer these together, and I do it both ways. So I'm just going to go ahead and draw the center line again. I want to make sure that I cross the seam, because there wouldn't be any point in sewing this again, because what you're after is for these 4 triangles to be in this block. So we'll get that stitched together and then go to the block layout. Okay, I've got these stitched. Now I'm going to cut them apart, and these units are a little bit oversized, and I will be trimming them down after I press. So I'm just going to press this to one side for both of them. And because of the way these are made, you have a right and a left unit, even though they are symmetrical. But if you look at the back, the seams go the opposite ways. If I can show you that. This seam is going towards the dark, this seam is going towards the dark, but in the opposite direction. So, okay. The other thing you can do, and this is just kind of a little fun thing that I like to do, is spin these seams. And I know that it's sometimes hard to figure out exactly how that works. And if you take a look at the back of your unit and look at how the seams are going, this seam is going to the right, this seam is going to the right, this seam is going to the right, and then you get to this one, which is going against the grain. So that's the one you're going to want to press so it goes around in a circle and rotates. And the way you do that is you just pop that center seam, and it's basically taking the stitches out of the seam allowance. And what that gives you is a flat center. You do have evenly distributed fabric. Here, if I can get this pressed right. So the center will lay really flat. And then you get a little 4-patch in the middle. And you do this the same way with a 4-patch block. So I'll show you again on this one. These seams are going the opposite way. So this is going to the left, down, and then to the right. So this is the one we want to pop and press away. Sometimes you need to give these a little bit of help. The stitches may not want to come out easily. Most of the time they do. So here we have this unit here, and now we will be trimming these. One of my favorite trimming tools is the triangle trimmer by Quilt in a Day. And the way this one works, it's got, excuse me, one side has 1/2-inch increments, the other side has whole inch increments. So you place the center on the cross pieces of your unit, and that way you get the right size, and then you line up the lines on the seams in your unit, and then you trim. I pull that away, and I flip it around so my untrimmed sides are here. Again, I line up the dotted line across, the solid line down the middle, and trim. And then we're ready to put our block together. Okay, to put this block together, you have 4 squares that are background squares, and you lay it out in rows, 3 rows. So the top row has the 1/4 square triangle in the middle, and this is the star points. The middle row has your contrasting fabric, or the one that matches your star points, in the middle, and the star points go out, and then the bottom row is the same as the top row. So you'll sew these together in rows, then you'll press toward the solid squares, so out, in, out. I think you know where this is going. And then when you sew the rows together, your seams will they'll nest together. Okay, the last step now is to press the block, the final seam press. And this block will be pressed away from the center. Sometimes I have pressing instructions based on what the block is going to be sewn to in the quilt top. Sometimes it's based on the path of least resistance. So okay, the next step here is to press the final seams. The instructions are to press away from the center. So here is part 2 pieced block, and next I'll show you about the snowman for this part. Okay, snowman number 2 has the bowler hat. I've got my snowman here on my parchment paper. I've got my scarf kind of pre-tacked, so it's all one piece. I'm going to put the scarf on. Tip on the scarf is that you want it to just, these little corners should just match up right where the snowman head comes down, this circle part. Then you can lightly tack that on. Doesn't need to be totally fused because you're going to be fusing to the background in a minute here. I've marked my eyes and my buttons. So now I'm going to go to the hat, which is on the back of the part 2 pattern. I'm going to line up my head, and these eyes will help get the snowman oriented straight. But again, it's not a fine science. It's just kind of how you like the way it looks. Now I'm going to put the hat on, and again, just tack it lightly on the head. I've got my background. I'm going to look at the pattern, and I'm going to look to see where fabric number 1 was. Remember, you were going to decide and remember. So fabric number 1 is in the upper left corner on this block. If this is cool enough to get off of here. I'm going to fold the bottom and finger press so I can get him centered, at least centered horizontally. And then vertically, this one's a little bit easier because his hat is right in the middle. So I'm going to check and see how far we have. From the top, we're just about 2 1/8, and at the bottom, we're a little bit less than that. So let's see here. At the bottom, we're at 1 7/8 inches, and at the top, we're at 1 7/8 inches. So I'm ready to fuse. So I'm just going to fuse him down. Okay. So there is snowman number 2.